So this is week 1
Yes.
of the Wild Ice knit along,
Yes.
and we have a special guest with
We
us.
do. Sorry,
Yeah,
neither one of us is wearing it, but I feel like we should someone
it's a little warm.
someone should be draping it so that we match and coordinate.
Yeah,
Hello,
I'm wearing
beautiful.
beautiful.
mine, so
Yes.
It's beautiful. How many of them do you have?
I have 4, but
Okay.
just 2 for myself, 1 for my
Yeah.
husband, 1 for my daughter. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's
sweet.
nice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like that. You can knit them for the whole family. Would you like to fully introduce our guest? I just cut us off.
I would. Yeah, so we have Brienne Moody with us today, and she is the designer of this gorgeous sweater. This is a colorwork sweater. Um, and Brianna also designed the reunion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I should have worn. I don't have one of these in my size yet. But I do have my reunion.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
wear it next week.
Yeah. That's been a really, really popular sweater with our store. We've
Yes.
had a lot of people join the knit along and make the sweater with us. And I think, did Faustina make one too? I think.
I don't remember, but I wear
Okay.
mine all the time.
I know Katie made one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And that whole knit along is still available online, right? People could still go
Yes.
there because that's how I discovered you guys. I was actually preparing for a class teaching the
Hmm.
reunion cardigan, and I was just googling around, and I found the knit along, and it's such a good companion, so fun, and actually,
Yeah.
it's really entertaining too. So
Uh-oh.
it's not
Oh,
just
that's good. That's good to
informational, but
hear.
it was. I found myself like just listening while I was knitting and doing
Yeah.
other stuff. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
We have worked together for a long time, and we like to have fun together.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we do often go off topic
Yes.
and goofy, but we have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do this with other people, so we're really glad that you could join us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I'm just looking at the chat just to see if anyone has any questions yet. So, I guess yeah, if anybody has any questions for Brienne about, how you became a knitwear designer, anything like that, we'd love to chat about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe just get us started off. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this design?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Where did this design come from?
Sure. So, actually, I'm trying to remember what year that came out. It must have been like 2022, maybe, or
Mhm.
2021. That was my second ever sweater pattern design, and Wild Ice. I know all of you Canadians already know this, but Wild Ice is that like rare, really smooth ice during
Mhm.
particular conditions, and so I live pretty close to Thunder Bay, like about 45 minutes away.
Okay.
So very cold here on Lake Superior. And
Yeah.
that winter, we were having this wild ice, and everyone in my town
Mm.
was just crazy for it, just like
Yeah.
rushing out to access it. And everyone's saying, "Did you skate on the wild ice?" Anyway, so I wanted to design a sweater. I was inspired by
Mhm.
that time, that event. I really do like to design from stories.
Mhm.
Usually, it could be anything from like a pop culture reference to something that's actually happening to kind of
Yeah.
stamp that memory. And so I did end up like pulling this particular yoke design from a
Mhm.
downhill ski pole that my husband had. It was like
Oh.
the original version of this is hot pink with black
Yes.
Yes, I saw that one.
shapes, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what his alpine ski pole looked like. Anyway,
That's
it was kind of
cool.
my first foray into color work knitting, which is
Mhm.
sort of why I started designing knitwear. I love color work yokes, I love tin can knits, I
Mhm.
love the way that they
Yeah.
describe how to make them, and so yeah, that's where that design came from.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really like the idea of having, having an inspiration point because it helps. I don't know if you feel this way as a creative person, that when you have kind of limits on your creativity, it's less overwhelming.
Mhm.
So it's like sometimes you don't know where to start, but if you have something that's like the inspiration point, it can kind of like uh, direct you.
Definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think, yeah, what's the phrase is something like it's not limitations, but yeah, something about limitations are the birthplace of invention or whatever, So
Exactly.
I
Mhm.
definitely have found that to be true. When my kids were really little and we were just completely broke, I would just like maybe I would unwind like ready to wear sweater and knit them things, or I
Mhm.
would go to the thrift shop and like cut up big people clothes to make them clothes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was such a fun kind of rich time.
Mhm.
I think. Yeah, and I think the knitting community is uniquely sort of subversive, and so I do like to pick up on little like things that are happening. A sweater I designed last winter. Is it okay to talk about this? Are you guys
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
can I
yeah,
just
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah,
talk.
go for it.
Yeah,
I
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it's called the faux pas sweater, and it's
okay.
because I was listening to Amy from La Biena May talk about she had this closet full of sweaters, but she was saying,
Mhm,
the irony is I'm going through my own personal summer. And
mhm.
so I designed this sweater that has like little lace holes under the arms and like down the
Oh,
front, just some venting
Yeah,
because
yes.
I was
I
with a
love
bunch
that.
of other knitters and we were looking around the table nodding like, yes, we're all getting
Mhm.
hot, like no matter,
Yeah,
And
it's so
so
true.
I called it the faux pas sweater because I think women's health is often like, whoop, shouldn't talk about it, but we
Mm,
should.
Yeah,
But so anyway,
yeah.
I like to sort of bring that forward.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's such a great idea because,
Mhm.
like, I've actually noticed that this winter I've been wearing my knitted sweaters a little less because 'cause I'm just
Mm,
hot.
Yeah.
yeah.
I get hot, like, walking places. So having something, like, lighter or with a little bit of ventilation is so
Yeah.
important.
Mhm,
Yeah, for
mhm.
sure.
Yeah, and I'm an endurance runner. I love to run, and all of
Mhm,
that, like outerwear, wool outerwear, it has all this venting all over it. And I'm like, that's so
mhm.
smart. I would totally wear my wool sweaters all the time if I. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, just
Do you find that I see, I'm not a runner, but I know that I walk everywhere, so I do get hot walking. Do you find, that you don't get as hot in wool? Like, do you find it breathes better?
I do, yeah,
Yeah.
and it dries really quickly. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the best. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. It has that lovely I remember being in, like, physics class in high school and the teacher being something about it can hold its own weight in water and still feel dry to
Oh,
the touch or something like that.
Wow.
that's
Yes,
Something like
wild.
now, you wanna fact check that? Because my, like, 20-year-old memory of
Yeah.
high school physics is not
that is so
100%
cool.
accurate. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
that
I
makes
wouldn't be
sense.
surprised,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay, just some questions
yeah.
here. Gorgeous sweater, beautiful. Um, we've got some people from Morrisburg, Port Arthur, or Fort Williams. Yes, we are in Ottawa, but Brienne is from
The States.
the States. Yes,
Yep.
which state are you from?
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yep.
Okay,
And
yeah,
I live in the Arrowhead region, so I don't know if you know what Minnesota looks like, but there's a big point at the top, and that's
Yeah.
kind of
okay,
where I live. It's like a hour and a half, 90-minute drive to Thunder Bay for me.
Okay,
okay,
yeah. And you understand cold weather. You
yeah.
understand the need for a warm sweater.
This is
Yeah.
totally off topic, but I've been watching rock videos,
Like the
uh, like
mineral?
minerals and stuff
Oh,
like that. And there's a lot of people, it seems, in Minnesota and Lake Superior who collect agates.
Yep.
They get those rocks from the beaches and stuff.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and then they cut them open, and they're this beautiful rock.
So they can make it
Yeah.
warmer.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally off topic.
No, I like it. There's a lot of rock pickers up here. That's true. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
It's funny. Sorry, this is really off topic. Just
yeah,
building off of that.
yeah,
My mom and my sibling kept saying, like, we went to this rock show. We went to this rock show. And I was like, okay, that's a little out of character for you guys, but
yeah.
sure. And then come the holidays and I get like these little rock like gifts. Like I got this little frog that's made out of a rock.
Oh my
I'm like,
god.
oh, rock show. Okay, that does make more
I know. I
Yeah.
thought she meant rock music too. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I realize I have to specify.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but, that's my current connection to Minnesota is that that happens there. That's
The
popular there.
rock people live there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so for the first week of the sweater, one of the things that I kind of wanted to chat with you about was gauge. And
Mhm.
because when you and Katie and Faustina were having your chat on Fab Chat, you mentioned some interesting things about gauge that I wanted to kind of ask about. Basically, you know, usually when you pick a pattern, you kind of pick the yarn to match the pattern, but you were kind of talking about how you can use your gauge swatch to kind of not pick any yarn, but broaden your choices and what yarn you can choose.
Yeah, I think that that is like, um, the knitting world's like biggest secret is that you really could use any yarn for any pattern technically. You may not
Mhm.
like it. Like if I tried to use a fingering weight for this, I may not like it because the fabric would be really loose.
Mhm.
But I mean, you could get gauge if you use the right combination of needles with
Mhm.
your yarn. So really, I think that's really empowering.
Mhm.
I think it is so fun to go stash diving and maybe hold two like dissimilar yarns together to get a really
Mhm.
nice marl.
Mhm.
This yoke I had spin cycle yarn. This is a fingering to sport weight, they say, but I held two strands together, which I think really intensified the dye.
Mhm.
So I really love how this one turned out. So yeah, I think people are resistant to gauge swatch, and I really was until I became a designer, and I was told you can't release designs unless you're willing to do gauge,
Right.
obviously, because you
Yeah.
can't tell people. But then once I started doing it, it
Yeah.
actually like relaxes me into the process, and a
Mhm.
lot of times, you need a minute to practice the stitch pattern.
Mhm.
Like we've got this little bit on the cuff, so you could do a gauge swatch.
Yeah.
Like this, or one thing that I really like to do. Am I rambling too much? Maybe you were going to
No.
ask about this
No.
next. But when I design a larger project like a sweater, I like to release a companion pattern, like a reluctant swatcher pattern, I call them. So there is a hat, the
Oh,
Wild Ice
yes.
hat.
Yes,
So
love
that
it.
way, if to encourage yourself to make a gauge swatch, we call it a wearable swatch or a usable swatch.
Yeah.
And this wasn't my idea, it was Elizabeth Zimmerman's idea. She called them experimental caps.
Mhm.
Mm.
So you want to see if you have gauge for a project, or you want to try out a yarn combination, or you like a lace pattern but it looks a little intimidating. So just, cast on a hat's worth, make
Mhm.
a hat, and if it doesn't fit you perfectly, give it to a baby, give it to your uncle, and then start
Yeah.
over.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a very reluctant swatcher. A very reluctant swatcher. But I love that idea. That's sort of like, in sewing where you make a wearable muslin.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so you would make a garment out of some less expensive fabric or, you know, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just checking the questions here.
It's a good one from Francine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What did she say here?
Down at the bottom
Oh,
4. Um,
whose pay?
oh, what pattern is it?
Oh, what pattern? Yes,
Did
it's
we forget? No, 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 we didn't. Okay, it was at the very beginning.
yes, it is the Wild Ice sweater. So it's a top-down top-down color work sweater. Um, and I guess it's somebody who maybe
Is joining late. Yeah.
joined later. And what weight of yarn is this pattern? Okay, so this is for a worst like a Aran weight,
Hmm.
but you could also use a worsted weight
Hmm.
yarn for it. Yeah.
Yep. I
Yeah.
used Malabrigo, the unplied for the original sample.
Mhm.
But again, gauge swatch. You could use
Yeah.
anything.
Yes.
You could hold
Yeah.
two yarns together. Really, I really think that's it's fun. Swatches can be fun. It's
Mm.
Yeah.
empowering. You know.
Yeah. I've definitely done, like, with other not like, non-sweater patterns, I've held yarns together to get what I wanted
Yeah.
for, like a shawl or, um, you know, if I just needed a little bit of something. Yeah,
Mhm.
you can have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do really think it's like the knitting world's biggest like secret, because it's not just so that you can like conform to the pattern's gauge. It's also so you can decide, because
Mhm.
I know this is what I always used to do. I would like save up all my money. I would go to the yarn store. I would pick out a pattern, and then
Mhm.
I would be like, I'm just going to use the yarn and the needle sizes that they have, and then I'll be
Right.
safe. Like there's no.
Right.
But actually, it turns out I'm a really loose knitter. So then I would get home with all that yarn and start knitting it up, and my garment would be huge, or there'd be
Yeah.
big like holes. It'd be really loose. And I was so frustrated and disappointed. And I didn't like the
Mhm.
fabric with that yarn. I really needed a different yarn to get those stitches closer
Yeah.
together. So once
That
I
used to
started swatching, it was so much more
Yeah.
satisfying because I could create a fabric that I like.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
used to
Um,
happen to me a lot too.
Mhm.
I would knit sweaters for my daughter, and they would fit her until sh for, like, 3 years
Yeah.
because they were just so much bigger.
And
yes.
it's
Yeah.
very freeing once you realize that, like, in a particular any particular pattern or even a gauge on a yarn label is like one person's tension,
Mhm.
basically,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that you have to alter based on the way that you knit in
Mhm.
order to meet
Yeah, and
the
once you start
the
doing
flow.
that, it like really does free you up. Then the power is in your hands because
Yeah,
then
Exactly.
you decide what kind of fabric you want and what.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I've had, like, a lot of friends and students who,
Mhm.
will say, "Well, I got gauge on with this, but actually I like this fabric better, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna fudge the numbers instead in
Mhm.
order to make it work so
Yeah.
I can get the fabric and the movement that I like in the finished piece." Yeah.
Yeah, so, Laura says, when you swatch for a color work project, do you swatch with color work?
I do. So that's
Yeah.
why I think the hat pattern for this is really helpful because you do a little bit you do a brim, then you do a little bit in stockinette, and then
Mhm.
you do just a little taste of the color work.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do. I do swatch in the color work.
Yeah, because you will get, the other thing about swatching with the color work and swatching on a hat is to practice your tension.
Mhm.
Because when I first started knitting color work, I also knit a hat, and my tension in my floats was too tight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to put on the hat, it was tight
Mhm.
around where the color work was.
Yeah.
So it's a really good idea to kind of check your check the fabric and make sure that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
swatching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this yoke it adheres to the rules pretty closely. Like sometimes you'll see
Mhm.
a really elaborate yoke with like big animals and there's like a 17 stitch float or something. This really
Yeah.
adheres to the like no more than 5. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
should be able to achieve
Yeah.
that pretty easily. And Diana Walla from Paper Tiger, she has like my favorite video about color work knitting. She
Okay.
has this simple technique of like I guess I don't have color work on the needles now, but just sort of
Okay.
like once you get to a certain point, it's like a simple little tug she does to spread the stitches out before
Mhm.
she goes on.
Okay.
It's like the simplest trick, but it really does just even the
Yeah.
stitches out. And then you'll get with practice, you won't be yanking. Just like
Yeah.
when you learn, when we all learned to knit, almost everybody is really tight, like with the cast on. And then you can't
Mhm.
get your needle into the loops, but over time you
Yeah.
relax and you find your rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also find on a sweater yoke, my tension kind of evened out better
Mm.
than on
Yeah.
a
Yes.
small color work
Yes.
project. So it almost, even though it is a larger project, it was more forgiving, I found.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, that's true. If you did cast on like a tiny, like a cuff like this, you're probably going to be tighter when you're
Mhm.
and I wouldn't like obsess. I mean, get close with the gauge and then you've got all your tools, right? You can block it.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of things you can do. You could add a little extra stitches under the arms or something to make it wider. We
Mhm.
do gauge to get a fabric we like to get close. And then, of course, some of knitting is that fun, like improvisational nature of it where you're,
Yeah.
yeah.
And every project is practice for the next one, which
Yes.
I try to remind my mother of, and she does not like it when I say that, but still, it is.
Uh,
Every sock is practice for the next sock.
yeah.
Every sweater is practice for the next.
Somebody asks which yarn we recommend, and so I mean, it really depends on what kind of yarn you would like to use and what's in your budget. We have some yarns that,
Is that the one that we
yeah,
used?
this
Yeah.
is one of them
So the one we
here.
used is
This is Woolstock by
nice.
Blue Sky Fibers. So this is the one that we used for the pattern. Um, it's a
Worsted Peruvian wool. It's not
Yeah,
superwash.
it's fine. It's Highland wool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these come in like a nice 150-gram skein, and they also have 50-gram skeins.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to kind of play around with that.
Hmm. Oh, they can't hear us. Oh no.
Hmm.
Okay, wait.
Can you still hear us?
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Hear us, but we break up.
Maybe open the door because I've got a little like
Let's see.
internet thing. Maybe it's because the door is closed.
Who knows? Okay.
Let us know if that helps.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us? This is what I do
Yeah.
at work when we
So, we were talking about yarn. Yes, what yarn we would recommend. So, we do have a few yarns that are suitable in the shop. We've got some vintage, what is it? The Barocco vintage,
Mhm.
which is a worsted weight.
Yeah.
Um, a Woolstock, Lucky Tweed by,
Mm,
Kelburn Woolens.
mhm.
Hmm.
Huh.
Here, you chat while I figure this out.
I'm gonna keep flapping my gums. Wait, what's happening? Oh, you're leaving.
I'm just gonna check something.
Caitlin, I wore sweatpants. I'm not prepared to stand up on camera.
Just slide over. It sounds like Catherine can hear, but Francine
Okay.
cannot hear. So someone says all good, someone says I can't. So okay. No, sorry, it's me, but you're breaking up. Now I'm reading the chat.
There are things that might factor into what yarn you want to use. Traditionally, like we're talking old timey traditionally, there was this belief that you couldn't possibly use a superwash yarn to knit color work. That's absolutely been um, that's been disproven at this point. But if you are just learning to knit color work for the first time, I have found it a little bit easier to knit with a non-superwash yarn. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say if you're just
Mm.
learning for the first time, but ultimately I think what inspires you is going to be what gets you to finish and, work it through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's an excellent point. Yeah, and I would say if you are going to knit with superwash, just make sure you extra pay attention to your attention because that usually will show up a little bit more obviously, I would say. But I've knit a bunch of things
Mhm.
out of superwash wool, so whatever. We're still tech debugging at this point, right? Yes.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
I see your shoulder looking frustrated.
Well, we're still connected, it's just the chat seems
Okay.
to be
Odd.
yeah. So I will kinda keep my eyeballs
Okay.
on that.
Oh, and Farley's coming in.
So, yeah, so those are some of the yarn considerations.
Mhm.
And you did bring oh, hold on here.
No, we.
Hold on here.
So something's happening. Who knows what? All right.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. Maybe.
Okay, there we go. Still good?
You can hear us? Yes? Okay.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
good.
Oh yeah, the
Okay,
whole time, clear as a
okay,
bell. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
cool.
All right. Catherine's getting us right back on track. I was just about to point to this next piece, which was says choosing a size. Should we talk
Yes,
about sizing?
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
You're still
you talk
typing.
about
All right. So the question from Catherine is that this is a rectangular shape, right? Not too fitted a sweater.
mhm.
Yep.
Do you have any recommendations or preferences for how to choose a size? Is there anything in particular that
Yes,
you
I
do?
think this is another like well kept secret. So I would recommend like if you've never knitted a sweater before, or even if you have, I think it's worthwhile to find a shirt that's a stretchy fabric that you love the fit of. So for a worsted weight sweater, I would find like a sweatshirt that you love to wear, measure across the chest, double that measurement, and then pick something close to that measurement.
Hmm.
I think sometimes people take like their bust measurement and then they go for that size, and maybe that's a little too fitted, or maybe I tend to knit things with less ease. I like to wear things closer. That doesn't mean that you can't knit it with 6 inches of ease. It'll be great. That's great. But that would be my tip, would be to find like a sweatshirt because that has a stretchy knit fabric.
Hmm.
Measure that and then choose. This is size inclusive. There's a whole bunch of sizes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So choose the size that's closest to a garment that you already love. And then yeah, there's no shaping. It's just straight down. So it is a boxier fit. I don't
Mm.
knit sweater. I don't design sweaters with shaping. Maybe I will again one day, but for now I like this like more loose fit.
Yeah.
So it also harkens back to what you were saying about having knit four. Oh, you're really not on camera right now. Having knit four versions of the sweater, one for your little person and one for your husband as well, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that lends itself to being more of a unisex design if there's no waist shaping included
Mhm.
Right.
in the design. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yes, Catherine wants to know about the best most important measurement to take. I am a bit of a enthusiast about making sure you measure your like upper bust underarm
Yes.
because that is I in my experience just watching my friends knit stuff, that's
Mhm.
where they tend to like miss the mark and then all of a sudden their
Mm,
armpit's down here halfway
right.
through their waist. So I would keep an eye on that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, we have talked a little bit in previous, knit-alongs about, like, bust shaping and stuff like that too,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, I think short rows for bust shaping would come after you would split if you wanted to
Right.
throw some in.
Right.
And same thing if you were going to do some waist shaping, that would come in after the split as well.
Yeah.
So you'd sort of still have to make sure that it fits under your arms appropriately. Yeah. I feel like I had one last thing to add to that, and it is definitely gone.
And it left.
Oh yeah, it's gone. Never mind. It's important. It'll come back.
Yes. Yeah, I
There
think I don't know what was going on with my computer is like, being weird, but my phone is working. So I
Yes.
think we're okay.
Yes.
We'll just check the
Oh, but
comments
Sheila
here.
has a really great question.
Are there short rows in the back? Sheila asks.
Yes.
So yes, there are, and I don't know if you can see this black wedge, how it's a little deeper back here than it is up front. Yeah, you can tell, right? How this is
Yes.
the
Yeah.
so it's this little crescent shape. I'm pretty sure they're German short rows. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but that's what I use most commonly. But yes, there are short rows so that this crew neck it dips just slightly in the front.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I did put the short rows in like on my husband's version too, and then just knitted the yoke deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's helpful. It keeps you from feeling like you're being choked by your sweater.
Yeah.
Which is something I appreciate. The sweater I'm wearing
Me
right now does not
too.
have short
I do
rows.
appreciate feeling like I'm not being choked.
Yeah, I don't like turtlenecks for that reason. They're so cute on other people, but I'm just like yeah.
Okay, so we're about 7:30. We're talking about all these techniques, but regular viewers will notice we're not demonstrating any of these techniques as we talk right now. Caitlin, why is that?
So we have some videos. Do you want to open the door for me?
Oh, is he trying to get out?
Yeah. The cat here.
Come on, buddy.
We have some sort of supplementary videos that we will be kind of releasing during the week. Just, different cast on methods, how to read your gauge swatch, all kinds of stuff. So we've recorded a bunch of things ahead of time. So those will be posted for people to watch. But if there's anything else specific that people want to know, we're always happy to demonstrate different things. So the videos that we're going to have this week are going to be the swatch, reading your swatch, cast on methods, and then short rows.
Yes.
And
maybe increases and decreases.
Different types of increases and decreases.
We're also trying to just like fluff up the library in general for you, for the folks at home at the same time. We're killing two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
Yes. So this evening was more just to chit and chat and talk about considerations instead of demonstrating techniques.
Yeah. Does anybody else?
Oh, I have a question for you, Brianna.
Yeah.
What method do you use to knit colorwork? What's your preferred method?
Oh, yes.
I use both hands, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, so then one side is continental and one side, how do you say that actually?
Yeah. I also say I use both hands.
Yeah. I think continental
and
is your left hand?
And then English or like picking and throwing.
I always forget which is which, but I do the same. Yeah.
And I really didn't know what I was doing when I started it at all. And I would say it like took me 3 or 4 cast-ons of a slipper. And I'm so glad I stayed with it because at first I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to be able to knit with both hands. But once you get going, it's pretty exciting, right? It's like, I don't know. I even wonder about all that EMDR stuff, like crossing the midline, or like walking. It's pretty satisfying that way.
Yeah.
And very rhythmic, I think. And I think the great thing about color work, I'm a big fan of reading your knitting. I hate having like a stitch, like a row counter and all these charts. I like to like kind of get the feel for a pattern and then just roll.
Yeah.
Like this looks really complicated, this sweater that I'm working on right now, but it's really just, if you look closely, it's just beautiful. 4 rows repeated over and over and over. And I don't even have to look. I don't have to look at the pattern at all. And so it's really rhythmic, it's fun. And same with color work. Like what I was going to say is the reason I like color work is because if you make a mistake, you can see right away. Yeah. So if one of these little orange stitches hops over into the black, it's like, oops, So it's nice that way you can read your knitting. You can see what's happening.
Yeah. Exactly. It's also really like patterns like this are really easy once you read the row. So it's like, 2 2 2 2 2 2. Like it's very intuitive.
Yeah.
And then the next one will be like 3-1, 3-1.
Yes.
And, like just it's a very sort of traditional motif that is very easy to
Mhm. I really
get a
loved
rhythm.
I really enjoyed knitting this yoke.
Mhm.
For that same reason, I also hate having to refer to the pattern. I'm, like,
Mhm.
in the swing. So being able to tell, like, "Okay, well, I had 1, so now it's 3, and then it's 5, and then we" for, like, the
Yes.
little feet.
Yeah.
Like, that's I love something intuitive like that. Yeah,
Yes.
very helpful. Yeah. Oh, I just remembered, I on the topic of
Yeah.
knitting with both hands, I'm like, that's my favorite party trick, is if I'm around non-knitters and you pull it up and you're like, "Look at me, I'm just
Yeah.
amazing."
I know. Yeah, I would encourage all you knitters to learn how to do it. You'll
Yeah.
get it. I promise you'll get it. And then yes, you can impress people at parties. It looks
Yeah.
really hard, but and again, I watched Diana Walla, that paper tiger. Have you
Mhm.
Yeah.
guys heard of her?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Her
Yeah.
videos are so crisp and clear and easy to follow.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought she had some great tips, and that's how I
Mhm.
learned how to knit. And I'm
Yes.
not that patient for learning new techniques, to be honest.
Me
So
neither.
I promise you, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Yeah,
It's
I
worth it.
mean, you're already holding your knitting with both hands,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
And the way I look at it is I'm not really doing anything with my left
Mm.
hand. I'm scooping it with
Yeah.
my right.
Yeah.
I'm not even doing anything,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, when I determined that that was something I was going to do, damn it, I was going to do that. I knit myself a huge poncho, that was just stockinette on,
Mhm.
like, 25 millimeter
Okay.
needles, but I did it all continental because 'cause I'm originally a thrower. And so after that, I was like, "I got it down. Yeah, I
Mhm.
can now do both of them at the same time because that's a lot of poncho."
Mhm.
But it was
That's a
easier,
great
bigger
idea.
needles and stuff, yeah, yeah.
That would be
Um,
fun. There's in the States here we do like a knit for food marathon in April where it's like a 12 hours of knitting or something. That would be a
yeah.
fun time to like
Oh,
commit to
yeah.
learning a new technique, you know.
Yes,
That's a great
absolutely,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
We should do
It's
that.
like
A
a
knit-a-thon?
yeah. Oh my
Oh, I'm
I'm
gonna
sure
write this
it's
down.
open internationally. It's Laura Nelkin. She's like
Okay.
a shawl designer and she puts it on.
Okay, we'll look into that because 'cause we're always,
Yeah.
like, trying to think of new fun things to do. We do,
Yeah.
like, knit in public day is something we like.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, stuff like
There's
that is
ice
fun.
cream, it's amazing.
We rent an ice cream truck, and they park at the store.
It's
Perfect.
so
It's
Oh,
good.
amazing.
Yeah,
that's good.
it is good. We have one last question from Catherine,
Mhm.
and then I feel like we should probably wrap up so people
Okay.
can go wind down for the evening. Inside out knitting, question mark. I
Mhm.
think I know what Catherine is talking about.
Yeah. So, I have heard of this. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So basically, for people who haven't heard of it, is instead of knitting regular in the round, you would kind of flip your knitting onto the
Mhm.
inside of the needles.
And then your floats would be essentially on the outside
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
while you are
yeah,
whatever,
and that can
knitting.
help with kind of giving your floats a little bit more breathing space.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if you have a tendency to kind of pull things really tightly, it can kind of just help
Yeah.
ease that.
I would say, you probably wanna choose one or the other. You do not wanna switch halfway through the
Yeah.
project. So, like Brienne said, if you're knitting a hat swatch,
Mhm.
you could do the hat with both techniques and see what you like better and then choose for the sweater.
Yes. Yeah.
But you would wanna keep with the same, for the
Mhm.
entire yoke, I think.
Mhm.
With
I
the
love
sleeves,
yeah.
you could play.
I have not tried that myself, but I'm
Mm,
really curious now about that idea. I always
mhm,
often it's hard to give up on the wrong side of color work knitting because I think the texture is really intriguing.
Mhm.
So it would be fun to try that. I know I got like a ready to wear sweater maybe 8 years ago that was inside out like that.
Mhm.
Um, so I'll have to try it. I have not tried
Yeah.
it myself. I
Like,
haven't done that.
the finished product is still it looks the same. It's just while
Yeah.
you're knitting it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
And that
could
makes
yes, we
sense if the floats were to the outside, you could also wash them more easily and keep them more consistent.
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, we could do a demo of that. Somebody's asking. So, yeah,
And I'm also
we could
just
do that.
gonna Google it before next. Don't. I'm like, I don't remember why. So I'm gonna look into it. Maybe it's fine. But I'll have an answer for everybody next week.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
all right. So, um, I think that's unless we have any more burning questions.
No more questions. Catherine has done it box. It helps attention.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
Thank you, Catherine.
cool. So, couple things. The We're having a trunk show this weekend with Amaranth Fibers. Monday. We're going to talk about the knitting thimble. So we're going to talk a little bit more about color work next week, correct?
Yep.
But every week we're going to have kind of like a notion that you might find helpful, and a discount code.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a little gift for you guys. So if you would like to get a Norwegian knitting thimble this week, I believe it's 15% off.
Oh, look at me.
Yeah. And the coupon code is Wild Ice KAL.
That's what the knitting people or the influencers do,
Yeah.
right? They hold it up. So I will just, as a heads up, you'll have the most success if you are a continental knitter.
Yeah.
And we will dive into that more next week. And our little video about different color work techniques will show you how you're going to hold both your yarns in your left hand. But it is really cool for keeping your yarns straight, and not having them tangle up on you if you're going to hold them both.
So that might be something you might like to try. They're not too expensive.
No, they're like $7.
Yeah. $7.
Will that be in the show notes? Okay.
Sure.
We're not going to make people try to remember that.
Oh my goodness. And I feel like there was one. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The yarn, because there was an error in the yardage.
Meters.
So in the meters, yes. So if people still need a little bit more yarn, we do still have the coupon code for the sweater yarn. So if you need a little bit more, that coupon code is still good, and make sure you get enough yarn. Yeah.
I had thing that I remembered a thing. We're having a knit night at the shop on Friday, and I think I'm hosting.
You are hosting.
It's in my calendar. So if anybody wants to come and work on sweater here, I will be about as coherent as I am this evening. But we can knit together, and Josh. Yeah. Cool. Not Josh abortion. I mean, like Josh is in
joke around.
Yeah. Oh Lord. Okay. All right.
Josh about rock shows. Got it. Thank you for having me. Yes, please do. You guys are so fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It was super fun. Thank you for your beautiful pattern.
Yes, both of them. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's such a lovely, like, it was not random, but like I'm just so happy that we stumbled across the reunion. And like it kicked off this back and forth.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for the knit along, and I really appreciate it. And this is so fun. I'd come on anytime.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care, you guys. Thank you.